Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. Happy Monday. The regular season's almost here. We've got a bunch of NBA news to get into. See, this is what I'm talking about. Studio Stu, as soon as the show starts now, YouTube viewers could see it. He's like, nope, that's it. I'm out. I'm not going to listen to all of this. He takes off. But welcome in. Glad you're all here. Hopefully you don't take off. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Don't forget, if we hit 35,000 subscribers by Halloween, Keith and I will debut our Halloween costumes on this very show. So again, hit that subscribe button if you've not done so yet. Keith, happy Monday. We've got a decent amount of NBA news to get into here.
Yeah, fairly busy weekend news-wise. We're down to it now. We've got only a few days left to the preseason. Everything wraps up by Friday. So we are just about done with the preseason. Season's only 8 days away, a week from tomorrow. So we're just about there.
That's right. Almost there. I guess let's start here. The big news of the weekend, Joel Embiid done for the preseason. Sounds like maybe back-to-backs will also not be a thing for him this coming season. What do you think about the Sixers strategy here? And are you getting any Kawhi vibes here in terms of Joel Embiid, the knee situation, and the way the 76ers are already approaching this?
Yeah, 100% Kawhi vibes. And that's interesting with Nick Nurse, was the head coach of that Raptors team, shepherded them through Kawhi Leonard being unavailable quite often throughout that year that he was in Toronto. But it paid off because they won the title. And that's what the Sixers are hoping for with Joel Embiid. And then it was kind of mentioned in that same story to a slightly lesser degree, Paul George as well. And I think that was a big part of them going out and making sure, hey, we're going to make the big splashy signing in Paul George, but we need to have plenty of depth as well behind these guys so that we have more than enough to get through the regular season. Because as much as I don't know that Philly cares about being the 1 seed or anything, I think they want to be top 4. You want to try to get the easier path if you can get it in the playoffs and get to where you want to be. So, yeah, going to the Embiid news, no real surprise. He doesn't need to play preseason. I don't, nothing to be gained out of that. I get, it may lead to a bit of a bumpy start as he figures things out with Paul George a little bit more, but, that is what it is. And then the back-to-backs, again, not really a surprise. Embiid himself said, I don't really care about individual awards anymore. I've been there, done that. I want to win a title. And to me, that says, hey, if I play 55, 60 games, but I'm healthy at the end of the regular season, let's go. So this is I think, a smart approach by the 76ers.
Yeah, I think this is the way that they have to go. It's certainly not the ideal situation, but if, we saw what happened to the 76ers without a healthy Joel Embiid, and I know they have Paul George now. I know obviously Tyrese Maxey is an incredible young player on the rise, but this team is going to go as far as Joel Embiid can take them. He's got to be healthy if they're going to get where they want to go. I get it. Still, you hate getting stuff like this already. We haven't even started the season yet, and it's like, well, no, this guy's not playing. This guy's not playing back-to-backs. He's going to sit out these, you hate seeing that stuff, but if that's what it takes for the 76ers to get to where they want to go, then so be it.
One word of caution, though.
Yes.
Clippers have tried this,
and it did not work.
Didn't work, right? They did everything they could to get Kawhi and PG there healthy at the end of the season, and it didn't work. So there's no guarantee. It's certainly, I think, a better approach than trying my standard, trying to win a random Tuesday in Charlotte, in January. But there's no reason to, push Embiid unless you really need to. Now, Embiid did say something like, hey, if we're playing the Bucks and the Knicks on a back-to-back, of course I want to try to play both ends of that. And there's probably some, hey, if it's a home back-to-back, maybe then he plays because that's a little different. Maybe you really manage his minutes in game 1 if you can or whatever, and then make the decision the next day. But he also mentioned this might be it for him with back-to-backs for his career, too, which says they're taking now, this is now a long-term approach, right? They signed him to that extension. So this is a relationship Philly wants to continue, let's say, through the remaining productive years of Joel Embiid's career, remaining all-star level years type of thing. So I think we're now to the point where we see him play many more than 60 games in a regular season from here on out. I'll be pretty surprised.
which means no more individual awards for Joel Embiid, but he's already commented on that. I'm paraphrasing, but essentially said he's past that. He's done it. He's won his award, his MVP, and they're moving on. So, yeah, I mean, this is what you have to do. The NBA did come out not that long ago. It was probably like 6 months ago now, but with all of their evidence showing that load management does not work. But for specific guys like Joel Embiid, if he's got a knee issue and, Kawhi being kind of a similar situation, this is something where if this is what it takes for him to be healthy come playoff time, that's what they're going to do. Now, speaking of knee problems, welcome back, Lonzo Ball.
Let's go.
I'm so excited for that. Lonzo Ball is going to play Wednesday night, and he's not the only one. It's going to be Wolves, Bulls, Lonzo Ball returning, and another former Laker also returning. I am a resident of his island, Julius Randle. Julius Randle is going to play for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So an exciting night coming up on Wednesday, but let's start with Lonzo. He hasn't played basketball. Keith, January will be 3 years since he's played in a basketball. So we're just short of 3 years since he's played in an NBA game. And you think about it, at one point he was one of the more exciting young players in the NBA. The passing skill, the three-point shooting really came around over those last few seasons. And for a little bit there, a brief, wonderful, glorious stretch in Chicago, the Bulls looked like one of the most fun, exciting young teams in the NBA. They have since moved on. But Keith, where do you see this going with Lonzo Ball? Obviously, step one is just getting back out on the floor. But if he can get back to what he once was, what does this do for the Bulls? Does this set up maybe a future trade? Does he stay long-term? What happens?
Yeah, I mean, if he got back to what he was, like, wow, right? That's like, one of the better point guards in the league. He was such a dynamic playmaker, always an underrated defender. He was a really, really good defensive player, and a better shooter than he got credit for, especially by the time we last saw him play.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, if he could get back there, I mean, the Bulls are probably a playoff team, and in that point, or at least a play-in team. I think I've kind of used, let's try to have a Sean Livingston like career here now, if you're Lonzo, where Sean Livingston went through all that knee stuff very early in his career, had to fight and battle his way back to the league, and then ended up being a very productive high-level role player on some title-winning Warriors teams. I think Lonzo could maybe get back to that point. I mean, yeah, you just pulled it up. I mean, look at his career shooting over his last 3 seasons that he played. 38%, 42% from three on pretty healthy volume too. Six attempts per game, 8 attempts per game, 7 attempts per game. Like that's no joke. Then you add to that passing and
sorry, you know what happened? He shot poorly as a Laker. Those first yes, that's part of it. You take a Lakers jersey off and you tend to shoot better. It's just the way you put a Lakers jersey on and you suddenly can't shoot. No, the Lakers actually shot well from 3 last year, but people will still tell me they can't shoot.
Sure.
But no, Lonzo shot poorly his first 2 years as a Laker, and those were loud years, right? And so that idea that Lonzo can't shoot stuck, and then he reworked his form. And that's 3 years in a row. Now the third year, very small sample size of games, 35 games, but still, I think that's more indicative of, kind of if you've got 3 years in a row of 38% and up from 3, like obviously he's fixed quite a bit. So there's this idea that, he's a bad shooter. That's just lingering from his Lakers days. His last 3 seasons in the NBA, he was very good.
Yeah, absolutely. So get back on the floor, see what it looks like. That's an extremely crowded guard group there in Chicago. Yeah. I think it's going to get even more crowded because I think they're going to keep Talen Horton-Tucker too. I think he's going to make the team off of his Exhibit 10. I think he's probably going to take Al-Narab Bidum's spot, who I think they're going to waive, which would basically you're swapping out minimum guy for minimum guy there. That no extra cost because Bidum's fully non-guaranteed. And they really seem to like Talen Horton-Tucker, who's a Chicago kid. So, why not put him in the mix? Personally, I don't get why they need another guard there. But yeah, Zach LaVine looks good. Looks explosive, looks strong, looks really quick. Again, this Bulls team is going to be a tire fire defensively. They are brutal. I mean, they can't stop anybody. So that's going to be a mess, but offensively they should be able to put up some points, and maybe Lonzo will help be a big part of that. If nothing else, maybe he can show, hey, take a shot on me come trade deadline, and I can come in and play 20 minutes a night for you as a playoff team. And then maybe what we end up seeing is he's not going to land another $20+ million contract, but maybe what a team looks at is says, you know what? All right, we can do, we'll have your bird rights. So we can do a $10 million a year deal or something like that, because he, again, much like Embiid, but Lonzo directly said, he's like, I'm never playing back-to-backs again. Like, that's just not going to be a thing. His knee's not going to allow it. So, but we're at a point in the league where we're in the range of 10 to 14 back-to-backs each year.
Yeah.
If you miss those and then price in another 10 games, all right, so you're around 60-ish games, and that's probably worth 10 million if he can be a pretty solid defender and playmaker off the bench for a team.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams that could use a strong defensive guard right now. And so Lonzo, it would be interesting. But again, he's similar to Zach LaVine. And obviously, Zach LaVine had his big game over the weekend, had 28 points on 6 of 6 from 3. But Lonzo has got to get back and just show everybody he's healthy. And I think he's going to have to be back for a length of time. Like, he's going to have to come back and play the games, with the exception of, the back-to-back games. He's going to have to play to January, and then maybe teams will be willing to trade. Now, even if that doesn't, let's say there's a speed bump, he has to shut back down, and I hope that's not what happens. But he is still a movable contract for the Bulls, just as an expiring $21 million deal. But obviously, the preference would be you open up your potential window of suitors if you have value, not just as an expiring contract, but if there's teams looking at you going, we need to get better at the guard position defensively. We need better ball movement. We need a shooter that can come in. Maybe Lonzo is an option. You just open up your possibilities more if he can be on the floor and give you something there as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. Again, my worry is Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, Josh Giddey. If they keep Horton Tucker, you've got Javon Carter. Like, that's a lot of guys who need the ball. There, some of them are okay, off-ball players, but none of them are great. But that just gets real messy. So I am a little concerned about how Billy Donovan's going to find minutes for everybody. But that's for him to figure out. And at the very least, let's get Lonzo on the court again and feel good about that.
All right, let's jump over now to Lauri Markkanen, who said he prefers to stay with the Utah Jazz. And that's exactly what happened. We know because of when he signed his deal, he is not trade eligible this season. And so he'll be with the Jazz at least through the summer. But he's excited about what they're building there in Utah and wants to see it through. So, Keith, we've talked about this before. It's a beautiful place. And I think it's not for everybody. It's not for every player. But if you're the kind of guy that likes that type of environment, likes what you get with Utah, maybe not quite as busy as some other big cities, certainly not like New York or not like LA, but there is some real appeal to it. And it seems like Lauri Markkanen really enjoys his time there in Utah. And so maybe we do see a situation where the Jazz get going quickly enough to where there doesn't have to be this Lauri or the kids idea where you can just merge those two things together and have them both out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the things that
I did it again, didn't I? With his name,
you did.
I did the double N instead of the double K.
It's okay. As a K first name, I must just be a little more in tune to it.
I always do that.
Yes, you're absolutely right with Utah, Salt Lake City area. Markkanen even said the area reminds him of all the places he's played the most of Finland. This all came out of an interview with Mark Stein that he had last week, and he ran on Sunday over on his Substack, the Stein Line. Markkanen said, it reminds me of Finland. There's less water, which obviously Finland's right there, near the ocean and Arctic seas and everything else up there. My lack of geography showing here at the moment, but he is he really likes it there. He's very happy to be there in Utah. And then he talked about how he is like really kind of excited to have I guess the best way was like he wanted to stay with the Jazz. He talked about how it was nice to have these teams pursuing him, especially the Warriors. Like, it basically said, like, hey, it means I've shown enough that teams want me, but I wanted to be here. This is where I wanted to be. And that's it going forward for the Jazz. They're going to be able to build around him. Then I'll say this about Utah as a market. You talk to enough players in the league, especially guys who've played there. There's two things they mention. One is people leave you alone there. This is not New York. This is not LA. This is not Chicago. This isn't even Boston, where you're out eating dinner and there's 9 million people running around trying to see you and get your autograph and take a picture and all that stuff. People pretty much leave these guys alone. The other part that is very interesting in this situation in Utah is I've talked to plenty of guys who very quick to mention it's a extremely short plane or helicopter ride to Las Vegas. If you need that excitement, if you've got 2 straight off days, for some guys, let's face it, even if you have one off day or you have enough time in between games that you feel like you can make a trip to Las Vegas, guys will do that. So it is that part is, of quite a bit of allure to players as well. So that's, just some stuff I think people should know about Utah in general. And, a lot of guys have played there and then they come away saying, man, I thought this place, everything closes at 6 and it's the most boring city in the NBA. And they're like, it's really not that bad to be there.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, let's jump over. And it is a beautiful place. It's funny that you mentioned Las Vegas and Utah. Actually, right now, my wife is flying on a work trip, flying into Las Vegas because she needs to go to Utah. Her trip is to Utah, but the flight is way cheaper to go to Las Vegas. So she's just renting a car in Vegas and driving up to Utah. I mean, that's how close it is. It's going to take her like an hour and a half from Vegas to get to where she needs to go in Utah. So people don't often realize how close it really is.
Flying out of Orlando, it's very hard to fly to anywhere in the mountain time zone without having to go through Utah at some point. You end up whether you're going to Vegas or Phoenix or somewhere, you're kind of stuck there.
Right. Exactly. All right, let's jump over here to Houston. Fred VanVleet wants to stay with the Houston Rockets. He likes what they've got. And you know what? Like the Rockets are definitely a team on the rise. I think they're an interesting club that is going to be able to, I think, win in the future here. And Fred VanVleet has added a lot to this team. So I like that he's saying this stuff. And I don't think they need to move on from him anytime soon. I think this is going to be a really good fit for him for the long haul if these kids continue to grow. Fred VanVleet's ceiling will not determine the future of the Rockets. It's going to be on the younger guys. It's going to be on Sengun. It's going to be on Jabari Smith. It's going to be on Jalen Green. It's going to be on the rest of these guys that they've got. Reed Shepherd, of course, has looked phenomenal. But Fred VanVleet can be a part of the backbone of this team. And I think this is a group that can be really special. It just might take a few seasons, but it sounds like VanVleet is willing to wait.
Yeah, where I saw this was Jonathan Fagan of the Houston Chronicle. I had an article. I don't know if he interviewed VanVleet or if this was in a scrum setting, but he's the one who put together the quotes that I saw. And that's exactly what VanVleet said. He's like, I came here because I wanted to build something. I didn't come here for a quick payday and then I'm out of here in 2 years. Like he really came there to stay. That to me does not guarantee he's going to have his $40 million player or team option picked up for next year. But that to me says, even if that's declined, it may be declined in lieu of, hey, we're declining this to give you $40 million over the next 3 seasons or something of that range. That's probably a little light for VanVleet, but maybe they decline and they sign him like a 3-year, $90 million deal where it's like $30 million a year or something like that, where you knock his number down, but then he gets more long-term money because the Rockets are running into Sengun and Green. Both are extension eligible. They need paid or they're going to hit restricted free agency next summer. Jabari Smith Jr. will be right on the backside of that. So he's going to need paid. You've got Thompson, then Shepherd. You've got Tari Eason in that mix as well as Cam Whitmore. So you're just in a spot with the Rockets where there are a ton of guys because they had so many draft picks in a short period of time. Remember, every year, I think they drafted 7 guys over 3 drafts in the first round. So that's a lot of players that you brought in all at once, which that's why it sounds awesome to have all those draft picks until it's like, oh crap, everybody's good and we have to pay them all. Like, how do we figure this out? So, but with VanVleet, makes a lot of sense with that Rockets team. He's been very good for them. He's really helped them mature in the one season we've seen him there so far. I think him, Dylan Brooks, I think having Steven Adams is only going to help that further. The challenge for the Rockets is they might be the classic, man, they are so much better. And there was no gain ground in the standings just because or no ground gained, I guess was the way to put that.
You got it.
Yeah, flip that, reverse it.
We found it.
Style. They're because the West is so good, it's so deep, and Memphis, I think, will leapfrog them if they're healthy. So Houston's probably another year or two away, but good for them with VanVleet. That's where he wants to be, and he wants to be a big part of things there because that'll help them, moving forward.
All right, Keith, I know we're on a little bit of a time crunch, but we've got a busy transaction week. You had a few key things that you wanted to get into here.
Yeah, so just reminder to everybody, opening day roster set on the 21st in order to not hit a per day charge for players like guys who are on Exhibit 10 deals, guys who are on non-guaranteed contracts. They all got to be waived by the 19th. So that means really between now and the 19th, as teams wrap up their preseason schedule, you're going to see some teams go into cut down mode. So I don't know who this applies to, but if you wrap up your preseason schedule on Wednesday, some teams will make their move Wednesday or Thursday. They'll waive their guys and then they just move forward. Others will hold out till the 19th and then they'll figure it out from there. So I think here is the what becomes really interesting to watch. I believe Bobby Marks said, let me pull it up. There are, what did he say? 89 players on Exhibit 10 and then another 120 on partial or non-guaranteed contracts. So that's over 200 guys that could potentially be in play to move. The 89 for sure, some decision will need to be made. If you're on an Exhibit 9 or Exhibit 10 contract and you make it to the opening night roster, your contract flips to a standard non-guaranteed contract. That's what will happen there. Shout out to Celtics fans who are absolutely going through it right now with Lonnie Walker IV. They are convinced they must keep him at all costs. For Boston, just so everybody's aware, keep Lonnie Walker on his 2.1 veteran minimum contract that actually comes with a real dollar cost of just over $11 million, or just shy of $11 million, rather, because Boston will trip into the $4.25 per dollar spent tax bracket if they fill that spot, that 15th spot on the roster. So it's kind of easy to see why they might have second thoughts. As much as I know we're both fans of Lonnie Walker, we both think he can play and should have a spot in the league. $11 million spot for a guy who may not play regular rotation minutes. That's kind of a lot to ask ownership to foot the bill for. So we'll see, where that goes. But for now, that's kind of where we're at. And it's going to be a very, very busy transaction week. You see a lot of these players were waived, players were signed, players were waived, because that's how guys, they get affiliate player rights. It's how they beef up their G League. But where we've got literally hundreds of transactions coming over the next 5 days in the NBA.
It's going to be a busy time, of course, and we'll have preseason wrapping up and then the regular season starting up October 22nd. We are almost there, right around the corner. Almost. So close. But everybody, we want to again thank you for joining the show. Make sure you do subscribe. That way we can show you guys our Halloween costumes on the 31st. We'll wear them for that show. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so we can get to 35,000 subscribers. We appreciate all of you for joining us over on YouTube as well as on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.